Good morning, everybody. It is June 29th, 2023, Thursday. It is 4:20 in the morning. Okay, this is part 2 to chapter 1, Exposing Satan's Playbook. Fighting with a prophetic word. When Paul wrote to Timothy, he revealed an amazing and important spiritual concept that we must expound upon, as it can be a true weapon of war that the enemy does not want us to understand. Paul said, "This charge I commit to you, son Timothy, according to the prophecies previously made concerning you, that by them you may wage the good warfare." 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 18. Timothy was a young minister who had accompanied Paul during his second missionary journey to Lystra. Acts chapter 16, verse 2. Paul circumcised Timothy to avoid a conflict with Jewish believers, as Timothy's father was a Greek. Verse 3. This young minister was well loved in the early church, including in the area of Iconium. Verse 2. He was blessed with strong faith that was handed down from his grandmother, Lois, and his mother, Eunice. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 5. Paul addressed Timothy as faithful in the Lord. 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 17. And because Timothy mentored under Paul, Paul called him my son. 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 18. Paul had spent 3 years at Ephesus working in a very wicked city. Yet this church had become a strong church among the early churches and is listed as one of the churches Christ addressed in Revelation. Revelation chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. Paul had commissioned Timothy as the lead pastor of Ephesus, and in his letter to Timothy, he gave him important instructions. The situation was this. Timothy was a young man, and there were many elders in Ephesus who, for some reason, were not pleased with such a young minister. Paul reminded Timothy not to rebuke an elder. 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 1. It seems the pressure from the opinions of some had caused Timothy to become intimidated with the spirit of fear. Paul wrote, "God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. The common Greek word for fear in the New Testament is phobos, i.e. Romans chapter 8, verse 15, and alludes to being afraid of the possibility of something bad. It is the root of the word phobia. The Greek word for fear that Paul used in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 is Delia, Deilia, which means timid. Timothy was not fearful of his elders or congregation, but he was becoming timid or intimidated by comments and opinions concerning his ministry. Paul reminded his spiritual son that God had not given him this feeling of being timid, but desired him to have a sound, disciplined, or self-controlled mind. Paul reminded Timothy of 2 important spiritual weapons that would help him overcome his situation. First, he told Timothy, "Stir up the gift of God which is in you through the laying on of my hands." 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 6. The original Greek word for stir up is a reference to rekindling a fire that is about to go out. It can read, to kindle up the gift. In the first letter, Paul instructed Timothy not to neglect the gift that is in you. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 14. And in this second letter, he said to stir it up and get a fire burning, a fresh zeal for God. The word gift in both references is charismata in Greek and can allude to the 9 gifts of the Spirit. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7 through 10. Or to a specific gift imparted from the Lord and transferred to a person through the laying on of hands, as Paul did with Timothy. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 6. Okay, so that is all for part 2 of chapter 1. When a prophetic word becomes a weapon of war, to exposing Satan's playbook. If you like this content, like this video, or comment below. Thank you very much, and thank you for watching.